Good morning and Shavua Tov. It is a real pleasure to be here at the Jerusalem Post conference. I must say that when I got on the plane only a few days ago, we were still negotiating with labor and talking about a unity government and the upcoming Paris conference. But, as you know, when I landed, Avigdor Lieberman was designated to become Minister of Defense, and the Israeli left was yelling and screaming that the end of the world is near. Well, I'm landing back in Israel tomorrow afternoon. Let's see what happens by then. Israel, as you know, is a vibrant democracy, a very vibrant democracy. I must say that I'm truly sorry that Bogi Ya'alon is leaving the government and the Knesset. Bogi served the state of Israel for many years and contributed much to its security. But I also must say that I don't really understand his decision to leave. He was elected to serve the people, and he could continue to serve them in a different role in the government. I would also like to say that as someone who has known Avigdor Lieberman personally, and I worked with him for more than 20 years, I am confident that he will make a very good Minister of Defense. I believe that it is good that every once in a while we have a defense minister who doesn't come from the military establishment. Someone from the outside can bring fresh thinking and a fresh perspective to Israel's security strategy. And let me say to all those on the left who want to pin on Lieberman's appointment the chances of advancing the peace process, the primary obstacle to advancing the peace process has been and remains Abu Mazen's decision to boycott the Israeli government and refuse negotiations. And if I've mentioned boycotts, I can begin now to discuss with you the subject which I had planned to present here today when I got on the plane. So friends, I would like you to imagine two people. On the one side, picture a sophisticated university professor who believes that Israel is the root of all evil. On the other hand, a young man from Hebron, taught to hate from a young age and motivated by Islamic extremism. At first glance, they have little in common. Sure, neither is too keen on Israel, but they come from different backgrounds, move in different circles, and express themselves in different ways. The professor acts out his hostility towards Israel through leading BDS campaigns, organizing boycotts of Israeli academics, using intimidation to prevent Israeli voices from being heard, and spreading bile and lies about Israel in his classroom. The young man's hatred is expressed through taking a knife or gun and going out to murder innocent Israelis. While he dare not admit it, the BDS leader has more in common with the terrorist than with genuine human rights activists. Though their tools are different, BDS and terrorism are united in their goals, they are united in their language of hate, and they are united in their victims. They not only complement each other, they fuel each other. Their shared goal is simple and explicit: the destruction of the state of Israel. Just as we only have to read the Hamas charter to understand their objective, comments from BDS leaders leave us with no doubt as to their end game. As Omar Baraghouti himself, a co-founder of the BDS movement, has said, Definitely, most definitely, we oppose a Jewish state in any part of Palestine. Or to quote California State University professor Asad Abu Khalil, the real aim of BDS is to bring down the state of Israel. BDS and terror also share the language of hate, in which incitement against Israel is the norm and violence is legitimized. We have seen this hate in the British Labour Party in recent weeks. From former Mayor of London, Ken Livingstone's claims that the creation of the State of Israel was a catastrophe, to Councillor Aziz's call on Jews to stop drinking Gaza blood. When you continuously delegitimize a group, you legitimize violence against them. Words can kill. BDS and terror also share victims. Terrorism harms all in its path, irrespective of their origin. Such as we all remember, as Taylor Force, the American Army veteran stabbed to death in Jaffa, or Richard Lakin, who died after being shot and stabbed on a bus in Jerusalem. Richard was a former Connecticut school principal who came to Israel to teach both Jewish and Arab children, and wrote a book called Teaching as an Act of Love. And he was murdered by those taught to hate. Richard's son, Mika, is a close friend of mine, and I will never forget his tears as he told me how such a gentle, loving man was so brutally murdered. BDS also harms all in its path. Who here knows that 1 in 4 biotechnology solution in the world has Israeli roots? Think about it, 1 in 4. And that is what they want to destroy. If BDS succeeds, amongst its victims will be cancer patients, stroke victims, and those with Alzheimer's across the world who are given life by Israeli innovation. The Palestinians are not immune to the consequences of such a boycott. The first victims of BDS are often the Palestinians themselves. We saw this recently when 500 Palestinians lost their jobs at SodaStream when the company was forced to relocate its factory, and they lost their jobs only because of BDS. Unlike the boycotters, we are concerned about human rights, both for Israelis and for Palestinians. We want dialogue. We want coexistence. We want to build bridges. The tragedy of BDS is that it does exactly the opposite. Just like terrorism, it does nothing for the Palestinians. It is not pro-Palestinian. It is anti-Israel. That's what it is. And so, when we take into account their shared goal, language, and victims, what we see is that our boycotting university professor, remember him, and our terrorists from Hebron, in fact, represent two sides of exactly the same ideology. Friends, BDS and terror are two sides of the same coin. As both Minister of Internal Security and Minister of Strategic Affairs, I am at the forefront of the fight against both threats. I see similarities between the two and the challenges they pose to all of us. Since last September, dozens of Israelis have been murdered and hundreds injured in terror attacks. Roughly half of the terrorists have been young people, brainwashed by Islamist incitement. This is particularly evident in the social media. And let's take again the case of Richard Lakin, who was murdered as a result of online incitement. His killers were inspired by what they saw online and instructed by posts which explains in detail how to stab someone to death, not someone, Jew. One of his killers even announced his plan for the attack on Facebook. Friends, anyone looking at his killer's Facebook page could have predicted what was coming. Anyone? Anyone, but not Facebook. Social media companies are happy to use the data they collect on all of us to make money, huge money, but unfortunately not to help stop terror. These companies must recognize that their platforms are used as a tool of terror. And I call on Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Sergey Brin, and their colleagues to take the initiative to monitor and remove this incitement on their own. If they refuse and continue to ignore their role in promoting incitement, governments must pass legislation forcing them to do so. Thank you. I'm talking about it with ministers from all around the world because they are also worried from the use of social media to recruit the young generation to join ISIS, Daesh, and as I said, today they are part of the problem and they must become part of the solution. For many years, we have seen that this incitement is also widespread in Palestinian schools, universities, and social media, official media channels. This incitement glorifies terror and encourages violence, even teaching children as young as kindergarten to stab Jews. As a human being and a father of 4, I am sickened at the thought of children being taught violence, not peace, to hate, not to love. Friends, teaching hate will never lead to peace, and it doesn't matter what kind of agreement will be signed. But, thank you. But we are making progress in combating this wave of violence and incitement. We have developed systems to identify potential lone wolf terrorists from their social media posts. We increased the number of police officers in Jerusalem to enhance both prevention and deterrence. And we outlawed Islamist groups who are inciting violence, such as the northern branch of the Islamic movement. These steps and others, thank you, have affected the reality on the ground. April was the first month since Rosh Hashanah with 0 Israeli fatalities from terror attacks. And the number of attacks has decreased from 67 in October to 7 in April. But don't get me wrong, this is still 7 too many. But we are moving, as I said, in the right direction. The same is true in the fight against BDS, a battle that is no less intense and no less important. In light of this challenge, for the first time, the government gave the Ministry of Strategic Affairs responsibility and also budget for fighting BDS. We are working to expose their true face, to counter boycott initiatives and anti-Israel propaganda, and to use both cutting-edge technologies and the passion of grassroots activists to spread the truth. We are also bringing leaders from different sectors to experience Israel for themselves. And I'm sure you agree with me that once you visit, the BDS lies become obvious and the truth becomes clear. BDS activists claim they are hurting the Israeli economy. Well, In reality, ladies and gentlemen, our economy continues to grow. In 2015 alone, foreign direct investment in Israel increased by, listen to this, 71%. And in fact, of the 500 companies that have been targeted by boycotters, only a tiny minority have stopped their activities in Israel. More and more decision makers are seeing the true nature of BDS and are taking steps to stop it. Banks in Europe, even this morning, have closed the accounts of BDS organizations due to violations of anti-discrimination laws and their connections to terror. This must become the norm of banks around the world. We have also seen anti-BDS legislation and regulations in many countries, including the US, UK, France, and Spain. These successes have caused the BDS movement, listen to this, to write to the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, asking him to protect, and I quote, their right to boycott Israel. For the first time, and that is positive, BDS extremists are on the defensive. But I want to be very clear. We cannot afford to be complacent. While almost all companies, as I said, ignore the intimidation, a tiny minority give in. For example, and this is the first time I'm going to say it, BDS was a factor in the decision of security company G4S to sell their operation in Israel, and I know it personally. The company is now trying to convince everyone that BDS was not a factor. Don't listen to them. Giving in to BDS was a mistake, both morally and financially. And companies that take such politically motivated decisions must pay a price, and they will. So hopefully G4S is going to start pay the price, because only a few days ago I received this letter from our friend Rick Scott, governor of Florida. It says how proud he is to have signed a law that prohibits the Florida Board of Administration from investing in companies that boycott Israel. Yeah, he deserves it. I am proud of Governor Scott and of the governors of Illinois, South Carolina, and Iowa, amongst others, who signed similar laws. They are true friends who are standing with Israel in the fight against hate, and we all thank them. BDS is also a serious issue on university campuses. I am appalled by events like Israel Apartheid Week, which are really just hotbeds of hate. Particularly concerning is the involvement of members of Hamas-affiliated organizations in BDS activity, which was revealed in a recent testimony before Congress. I have personally written to Congressman Ed Royce and Eliot Engel and to Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew, asking them to investigate and expose the connections between Hamas-affiliated organizations and BDS. Who funds them? Who's behind them? These are well-funded groups who are determined to achieve their goals. But friends, so are we. We have truth on our side, and that is why we will prevail. I believe that just like in the battle against terror, one of our strongest assets in this struggle against BDS is our unity. Friends, there is no left and right in this fight, no Labour and Likud, no coalition and opposition. In this, we are one country united and one people united. And this is where you come in. In the fight against terror, not everyone can be on the front lines. But in the fight against BDS, the battlefield, as you know, is different. Because you are on the front line. You are our special forces. You are our Yamam and our Sayeret Matkal. And I'm truly grateful for all your hard work, your commitment, and your courage. That is for you. So there is a lot more we can all do. So to everyone who believes in the values of truth and honesty, go out, not now. Go out. Tell your friends what is really happening in Israel. Go out and counter the lies our enemies are spreading. Go out and spread truth, not hate, because together, only together, we will, Be'ezrat Hashem, win. Thank you very much.